Voice of the Sea, learning from experts across the ocean.
Welcome to Voice of the Sea. In this episode of Voice of the Sea,
we spend the day at the University of Hawaii at Manoa's SOEST Open House. SOEST is the School of Ocean and Earth Science and Technology. Every 2 years, they open their laboratories to school groups and the general public. I talked to SOEST researchers who shared their knowledge of earthquakes, volcanoes, waves, and the sounds of the sea. First, our earthquake demonstration with some very excited kids. The Make Your Own Earthquake is always one of the biggest hits of Open House. And the kids love making their own earthquake. And this is similar to the way a real seismograph would measure an earthquake.
Yeah, so basically we all these little things are they're geophones, so they're picking up the vibrations or the waves, the waves of energy that we're sending through the earth by banging on the plate. And the plate allows the energy to sort of couple to the ground and travel a little bit better through the ground. It sort of focuses the blow a little bit. And then essentially, yeah, the waves are traveling through this little field of grass like they would travel through the earth and arrive at different seismic stations around the Pacific. So that's why we have all these little things labeled so that we can sort of simulate an earthquake that might happen in Hawaii and how it might arrive in California or Fiji. So maybe a more appropriate place to generate a big earthquake would be somewhere like Alaska or California or Peru. But we can do it in Hawaii. I mean, they happen.
Well, let's do it
October
in a real
2008.
place.
Okay.
That'd be more similar to what we usually see. How about we try California?
Sure. Okay. Okay. So yeah, safety glasses.
And then I'm just gonna.
We want to make contact with the red side on the plate. Just drop it right there as hard as you can. You want to try again?
Yeah.
One more time. So usually big earthquakes don't happen 3 in a row, but we're basically stacking the energy so we can see the amplitude sort of grow because we're stacking them on top of one another. So what we should see is that the receiver that is California will receive the energy first and then it'll arrive later at the other station. So.
And how is this similar to the real scientific investigations that you're doing?
Basically, there's a network of geophones all over the world and they pick up the wave energy and you can use the arrival time to figure out, to backtrack to the location of the source for the seismic wave. So it's basically the same thing, just in like a little contained environment.
So we made our earthquake in California.
Yeah.
Which is which number?
Well, what do you think? So if time is going down, so here's 0 time, and then time increases down this way, the place that we were closest to should receive the energy first. So based on this, which wiggle arrives first? Below 0. So this is some noise, yeah. Right, so number 10, California received the earthquake first, and then as we move away around the Pacific Ocean, you can see the travel time, the arrival time increases as we get further and further away until we start to wrap around and we get closer to California again.
Wow.
So this is basically what all the seismic stations around the Pacific are picking up when a big earthquake happens.
How does it represent what you guys are studying in real life?
Well, it's very close to what we study in real life. What it is we're basically making earthquakes. We're shaking the ground just like an earthquake would happen when it breaks.
And these geophones, is that the same instrument that you deploy in the field?
Yeah, very much. These are relatively simple geophones, but they're basically the same principle.
A little bit mind-boggling to think that we're studying movement of the earth through sound.
Yeah,
Can you explain that a little bit?
Vibrations in the air or in the water or what we can hear, and those are vibrations that our ears can detect, and we'll call that sound. Seismic energy occurs at oftentimes low or much lower frequencies, and it's shaking of the ground. So in a sense, these geophones are our ears. They sense the shaking. We feel them as earthquakes, and so that seismic energy propagates just like acoustic waves in in air, but it's in the earth.
Are you right-handed?
Yeah.
So put your right hand high. Thank you very much. And left hand low. Okay, so basically we're just gonna drop it right there. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, that's pretty good.
1, 2, 3. Waves? I can't hear you. Okay, you guys want to take that? All right, you made some earthquakes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, my name is Dr. J, and I'm a volcanologist here at the university. Can anyone tell me why we have explosive eruptions? Pressure. Pressure, yep. That's exactly the force that drives the eruption. But how do you form the pressure? Okay, you guys are a smart bunch, I can hear. Yeah, there's gas in here. These bubbles right here are gas, and they're under pressure, and they want to get out, but they can't. Just like a volcano, you form a magma, a molten rock, 60 miles beneath the surface of the earth. And when that rock forms 60 miles down, it's under a lot of pressure. And there's gas in this magma under a lot of pressure. But as that magma starts to rise to the surface, there's less and less pressure. And what happens is the gases escape, they coalesce, they get together, and they drive an eruption. And so right now, we're going to make our own explosive volcanic eruption. And for the volcano, we have this trash can. In this trash can, we have the magma, or the water that represents the magma. And for our gas that's inside the magma, we're going to use something called liquid nitrogen. Liquid nitrogen. Everyone knows what nitrogen is? If you take a deep breath, you breathe it in. It's in our atmosphere and it's harmless, but this nitrogen in here has been cooled to negative 360 degrees. It's very cold, over 10 times colder than ice, but it's in a liquid form. And what happens is, when you expose this liquid to our atmosphere, there's a reaction called sublimation where the liquid goes into a gas form. And so Emily right now is pouring liquid nitrogen into this bottle that is in between two bricks. And what we're going to simulate here is the explosion. So the liquid is coming into the bottle, and we're going to cap the bottle. And while that bottle is capped, that liquid is going to turn to gas. And the gas in that bottle is going to want to escape, but it can't. And it's so cold that we have to use safety equipment. That's why we're wearing glasses and they're wearing gloves, because it's very, very cold. You can get a burn, a freezer burn, if it touches your skin. And so here we are, filling up the bottle with our gas that's in the liquid form right now. Okay, they're all set. And now Otto is going to cap the bottle. As soon as she caps the bottle, the pressure is going to build. It's building right now as I speak. Greater and greater and greater. Then what? Well, let's find out. And this is what's left of our bottle. So, just like this demonstration we did here, in a volcano, if you have gases that continue to come out of the magma and concentrate, they can drive a volcanic eruption miles and miles into our atmosphere. Thank you.
The University of Hawaii Sea Grant College Program, helping coastal communities of Hawaii and the Pacific through research, education, and outreach. Serving the community from elementary to graduate students. Hawaii Sea Grant.
Voice of the Sea, learning from experts across the ocean.
So Jared, that was a pretty awesome display of power there in the volcanic trash can. Can you explain to me what was going on?
Yeah, so what we were doing was simulating a volcanic explosion for the kids here at Open House. And basically to do that, we take a regular trash can and we fill it with a little bit of water. And as for our bubbles that drive an eruption at a volcano, we're using liquid nitrogen. And so this liquid nitrogen is very cold, and when you expose it to our atmosphere, it turns into a gas. And so by taking a regular soda bottle and putting the liquid nitrogen into this bottle, put the cap on, that liquid will turn into a gas and eventually will cause the bottle to explode, and that's how we do this demonstration.
And there you go, an explosive eruption, homemade, just like if you open a bottle of soda.
So what's going on here then?
Well,
How does it work?
what the real simple thing is, we're generating waves by putting energy in over here, and the energy is being dissipated at the beach. There's a lot of motion. There's a lot of visual things going on, but if you look in the water column, there's really not much, right? It's just moving up and down. Somehow that energy is getting transferred from one end to the other. And so what we're showing, one of the things we're showing is how effective beaches are at dissipating that energy. Okay? Now, if we were to do something like put a seawall in, if I can find my seawall, so you can do some simple things, like we put a seawall in, and now suddenly the energy isn't dissipated very well, and you get a standing wave, right? So now what's happening is you have the energy coming in, bouncing off of here, and it goes back, and together it forms a standing wave, right? Now we remove it, and again, the beach works really well to dissipate energy. Well, right now we have a relatively shallow incline, and you see the waves are sort of spilling along, right?
Okay.
Now, as the slope gets steeper and steeper, the wave breaking changes characteristics, and eventually you get what we'd see as a barreling wave, and much more turbulence generated there. Okay?
Sure, there's a lot more white water.
Right, exactly. And so those characteristics change the style of the breaking wave. They also affect things like sediment transport, coastal erosion, things like that. You know, one of the questions is what generates waves? Well, in this case, we're doing it mechanically using a paddle, but we can also do it using wind. And that's what generates waves in the ocean, of course. So now we're going to, little by little, it starts to form a storm. So down here, you can see it's very smooth, very chaotic, messy, but as you move down the tank, things start to get more organized, and eventually you have a nice, cleaner breaking swell over there. And so this is a simple model of the evolution of a wave train as it moves away from the storm down remotely to some faraway location and breaks on the beach. Now, this is kind of subtle, so you got to watch that first train of waves that comes out, and what you'll see, these are deep water waves. So if you watch the first wave, it sort of disappears. You see how it disappears?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's because the wave phase is moving forward at one speed, but the energy is moving slower. So the wave runs out of energy. Now, once the wave train gets to the front, now you have a steady situation where each wave moving forward is losing a little energy, but it's also gaining energy from the one in front. So you don't see that. But it's that first one. And the same thing happens when we stop it. If you watch the last wave, the wave seems to come out of nowhere. You see? And that's because that wave is gaining energy from the wave ahead of it. We can go inside and look at some of the other stuff we have. So this is just a simple experiment that illustrates the Bernoulli Principle. Right?
The Bernoulli Principle.
Bernoulli Principle, right? And the Bernoulli Principle talks about the relationship between air speed and pressure. And basically, where the air speed is high, the pressure is low.
Okay.
Okay? So this here, I think everybody looks at this and you can see that the air pressure is, the air jet is what's holding up the water, the ping pong ball. But it's more than that, right? Because my finger here can try to hold the ping pong ball up, but it can't, right? I'm pressing up, but it can't. This is stable, and that's because there's a jet here, and the jet is fastest right in the center. And right in the center, there's low pressure then. So high pressure on the outside, low pressure on the inside. And if I move this here, there's lower pressure on this side, higher pressure, it's pushing this over. So if I let that go, it gets sucked right into the center, you see? And I can actually push it out, and the high pressure on the outside pushes it right back in, you see? Now, it's stable enough that I can move it around.
Oh my gosh.
And I can turn it on its side. Now, in this situation right now, gravity is trying to pull it out, right? And eventually, if I tilt it enough, gravity wins. Okay?
How does this relate to your study of water movement in the ocean?
It's a good question. This is a basic principle in fluid mechanics, the relationship between pressure and speed.
Okay.
So when things go fast, the pressure goes down. And so that's one of the basic tenets that drive motion in the atmosphere and the ocean. It also, another place where another example of that is just flight. This is the basic principle that relates to how aircrafts stay in the air.
I notice often as you see seabirds kind of cruising along breaking waves.
Right. Certainly the fact that it can stay aloft has to do with the Bernoilli Principle. And then the fact that the interaction between the air pressure, the wave moving forward, pushing air up as it moves forward, the seabirds take advantage of that.
So they are actually surfing the wave.
That's right. They're surfing that uplift that occurs just ahead of the wave as it's moving forward.
That's so cool. I always wondered about that.
Next, the sounds of the sea at the University of Hawaii at Manoa's SOEST Open House.
The Curriculum Research and Development Group in the College of Education at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. CRDG has been providing quality educational programs and services for over 40 years, serving students, teachers, parents, educators, and experts around the world and here in Hawaii. The Curriculum Research and Development Group, improving schools, improving education. CRDG.
Voice of the Sea, learning from experts across the ocean.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for having me here in the Sound Lab.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for coming.
And can you tell me a little bit about what you guys study here?
We study sound, mostly underwater sound. One of the things we do, everybody always says, oh, so like, do you use sonar? And sonar means that you actively ping, you send out an acoustic signal and it bounces off and comes back. We don't do that. We are a passive acoustics lab. So we just simply listen to you all the time.
Wow.
Sound is a pressure wave. So what it is it's particles that one particle pushes another particle, and that particle pushes the next particle, and the next particle, and they just keep, they don't actually really move much themselves. They can go in like a tiny little circle, but it's like a train on a train. One car pushes the next. And so what you will see is that if I push on one side, you can see the wave come and go, you see? And when in fact, the individual rings stay in the end, they equalize to the same position that they were at before. I could do this all day. If you've ever been snorkeling or diving, you've probably heard, if a boat is nearby, you think it's really close, you pop your head up and actually it's still far away. So sound travels really well through water. Both animals have adapted to use sound more than sight underwater, and I have some examples, but also we as people have adapted to use sound more than sight underwater. One of the cleanest tones you can produce is with whistling, because it's, when my voice, it's low, lower, and it has lots of overtones and lots of sort of breadth to it in terms of frequency. It's not just one frequency. But if I whistle, Do you see the peak? Mm-hmm. So I'll go quiet, and then I'll whistle, you'll see the peak, and then I will go up in frequency, and you'll see the peak move higher in frequency. So. And then what we do is we go through and look at mystery sounds. So we have students figure out what sound this might be. So first, is it man-made, natural, or biology, natural biology? What do you think? I'll put you on the spot.
Natural.
Natural, yeah. And it's a dolphin.
Ah, I was gonna say that.
And that's a sonar from a submarine. We'll find out what this is. Look how low that sound is. And it's sped up 4 times. Notice this signal here, this is 50 hertz. So 25 is here, this is 20, this is below 20 hertz. We can't hear below 20 hertz. By the way, what was it? It was a blue whale. Earthquake.
Wow.
That's sort of the next step. Instead of just listening to sounds and recording them and going and listening to them ourselves and going, oh, I think that's a porpoise, is using computers to identify it automatically, as well as then track and detect and track.
Wow, so I'm somewhat familiar with tracking animals by putting, say, an acoustic tag in them and having a hydrophone that would listen to that tag. But you're talking about tracking an animal by listening for the sounds that that animal makes naturally.
That's right.
Very cool.
We connect a little hydrophone like this. We can connect 2 of them to each and reel it out. And notice that this is, about, I think this is 30 meters of cable, small little hydrophone, easy to work with. This is portable, puts in batteries, and we're off deploying. Versus when we use larger systems, right there. Let me present to you our equipment. Yes. So this is about 150 meters of cable, and deploying this is a nightmare sometimes, especially when you have 12 hydrophones and you have to deploy this all in one day and bring it back.
It's heavy.
It's very heavy, yeah.
COSI Island Earth, bringing together university, government, research, and community partners to improve science education and ocean stewardship in Hawaii.
Exploring Our Fluid Earth is a dynamic curriculum developed by the University of Hawaii's Curriculum Research and Development Group, teaching ocean science concepts through the disciplines of physics, chemistry, biology, and ecology. Exploring Our Fluid Earth is now available freely online. Find out more at exploringourfluidearth.org.